Hi everyone, Amber here for So Majestic. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited for this tutorial. Months ago, I was browsing on Etsy and came across this designer who I fell in love with the bags. I was looking for a pouch that I thought would be kind of quick, something fun that I could maybe like quilt or do different ways. And so I bought the Mirum pouch from Lacus Designs and absolutely fell in love. So I just made them and I reached out to Sylvie, the owner, and asked her if I could do a tutorial, and she was so gracious and she said that I could. So I'm so excited today to show you the tutorial for the Mirum pouches. And as you can see, there's 3 different sizes. There's the small, and I did it with a single zipper pull. There is the medium, which has a double zipper pull, and the large, also with a double zipper pull. So the large is what I'm going to be showing in the tutorial today. And in all of them, if you open them up, they have little flaps to keep it from completely opening and spilling all your stuff. And the inside, there is an option for binding, but I am showing the pattern as it's written originally, so there's no raw edges. The large size I think is like so perfect for makeup or toiletries. I chose to make mine using water resistant canvas that I carry in the shop, and I just interfaced it with SF101 and some foam and used waterproof canvas for the inside. So you can see they hold up, they stand upright on their own, but they're also like super squishy, and you could fit them into a suitcase or a carry-on bag, whatever it may be. So all 3 are designed the same way. See, the medium also has the interior flaps. I lined it in black, so it's a little bit darker. And the small, I do suggest when you are first starting this, especially if you are going to do this as a birth bag and no binding at the bottom, to start with the larger size. I actually think the small is the hardest to do, but it's so cute. And what I also love is that they actually fit right inside of each other. So it's even perfect to store that. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Thank you again, Sylvie, for allowing me to film. I am going to link the Etsy store for Lacus Designs, where you can purchase the pattern. It's so affordable and I highly recommend it. It has inches and metric, so it's perfect for anybody. And the design, the pictures, the photos, like everything is so easy to follow. And like I said, I am filming the pattern exactly as it is written. And my friend Beth from So Country shows you how you can bind the edge. So if you purchase this pattern and join Sylvie's Facebook group, which I'm also going to link below, there is an add-on document that you could download, which shows you that binding. So I will have all that linked below. Let me know in the comments if you make one and if you enjoyed the tutorial. And as always, if you like it, please like or subscribe. It helps my channel grow and I appreciate it so much. So enjoy! Okay, so I have all my pieces laid out. I am going to make the large size on the video. So I have my 2 exterior cut. I'm using the water resistant canvas available in my shop. It does not have the PVC backing, so it doesn't have that thicker plasticky feel. For the lining, I am using waterproof canvas, so this one does have that PVC backing, so you can see the difference here. This is the Pro Tough from Walmart, which I think works great, so I use it any chance I can get. I have my 4 side connectors. It's recommended to cut them from lining. I think it adds a pop of fun, so I cut them from my exterior. I have zipper tape here and 2 pulls for a double zipper. Both of these are offered in my shop as well as the water resistant canvas, so if you like it, it's available. And the other thing I do have is I have 2 cuts of SF 101, and I'm going to use this on the exterior, as well as 2 cuts of this foam. I found this foam at Joann's. It's called like Naked Foam, and it's was only like $3 and change a yard. It was really nice because it doesn't have the fabric on top. I forgot what the other one's called, but this was much more affordable, and in a bag you're not going to be able to tell that it doesn't have the the fabric on top. So I haven't interfaced it because what I'm going to do and show you how I like to do mine when I'm using foam is I have cut it at 90%. So you can see that it is not in the seam allowance. So there's nothing to hold that in. So I actually interface my SF101 over the foam, and it is going to seal it in for us. So I'm going to show you that as one of the steps of the video. You can use any interfacing that you want. There's some recommended like European brands. Decoville Light would work. I'm using the foam. Or you could use any of like the custom fabric shops. It's really about preference. So those are my materials that I'll be using. Okay, and as far as tools, I'll be using glitter clips. I have a seam ripper stiletto combo, a ruler, snips, a blue water-soluble marking pen, a silver marking pen, and this chalk pen. Says I'm using the darker fabrics. I'm going to use whatever one works best. I am sewing with a 9014 Microtex needle, and I'm using this Tex 35 thread from Wizardry Stitchery. This is the variegated Black Widow colorway. If there's any other tools that I use, I'll let you know as we go along. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I attach my interfacing. I have my exterior face down. Because I'm using the waterproof canvas for the lining, I'm not interfacing the lining, just the exterior. So I have cut this foam at 90%, just a little bit smaller than my exterior. It will keep it out of the seam allowances. And then I'm going to place my SF101 over it. I sometimes use like SewFuse Plus or Wizardry Stitchery's Geeky Fuse, but for this, when I'm trying to fuse the foam in quickly, I find that the SF101 really kind of works well for me. So now that I have it centered, or as centered as I can, I just press down with my iron along the edge. So you can see it's starting to stick in. So I try to get the edges as best I can first, because that is going to hold the foam in place. And with the others, sometimes they need a little bit more heat. So this is why I'm using that, like I said, the SF101, because it does seem to fuse very quickly. And I don't have any water in my iron. I'm not using steam. So once I get some of the edges, then I actually press the SF101 to the foam itself, because then it helps it not move around as well. And then I try to get the smaller edges. Like the corners are kind of hard. So when I press it first, I'm just kind of trying to hold it in place so I can go around and do this better press all the way around. And because the SF1 was cut to the same size, it might not go exactly to the edge of the waterproof canvas. And that's okay too. As long as it's fused, it's going to hold it in place. And in my experience, it's also in the seam allowance still. Okay, so now you can see the front. This is what the front looks like. It has a little bit of crinkly ness to it, that's not a problem for me. Like I said, I like the structure that it gives. And so this one is good to go, and that foam will be held in place. So I just wanted to show that as an option. If you're considering using foam and you're sewing on domestic like myself, and you really don't want it in the seam allowance. So I'm going to press the other side off camera because it's the same exact way. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little bit of prep. I have my zipper tape cut to the length, and I'm going to add my pulls. I do mine by hand, so I just open up a little bit on one end. I start on the right hand side because I'm right-handed, put the zipper on a tiny bit, put the left hand side in, and I kind of like balance it there and push on with my pointer, and it went on really nicely. There's no bubble, so I'm very happy with it. So now I'm going to do the same on the opposite end, because this is going to give us that double zipper. You could do a single zipper, and I did a single zipper on the small size because it's so small, but the medium and the large I really think look nice with the double zipper. Okay, so again, I just added the zipper pull the same exact way. So you'll see that when you bring them to the center, they'll meet up. And now I'm going to prep the zipper and the pieces. So I am just folding this in half, and I am going to use my blue water soluble marking pen just to mark the centers. And I mark the centers only in the seam allowance, because even though it's water soluble, when I use like a nylon, it doesn't always come out. So as long as you have it on the edge, and I'm going to do the same thing for the lining. You can mark the bottom center too. We don't really need it. The top center is most important. So I'm going to mark both of them the same exact way. And then I'm going to repeat that for the exterior. And for the exterior, this blue will not show up on the black. So I'm going to use my silver marking pen. So again, folding it in half. You can see with the interfacing, it's like kind of curled up a little bit. So you want to make sure that you really do find your center. Yeah, much easier if I put it on the table than trying to do it up in the air. And you can also clip them with scissors. I just have always found it easiest with marking it with a silver marking pen. So once you have them all marked, we're ready to start adding our zipper. Okay, and one other thing before we start adding our zipper is I'm going to take this to the machine and just stitch across the teeth here. That way these do not open up and our pulls go flying. Normally I don't do that, but with this particular bag, I really recommend it because we will be opening up the zipper tape and it does get stretched. So I'm going to take it to the machine and just stitch across in the seam allowance at the end to hold our pulls on. Okay, so now that I have sewed across the bottom, we are going to open up our zipper. Makes it easier to sew this way, and I like to open it wide. So now we are going to take one of our center marks and line it up so we want teeth side down against one of our exterior fabrics. So we're going to line up the center of the zipper and the center that we marked on the exterior, and we are going to clip them together. Now in the pattern, she recommends to clip your zipper tape around the corner. I am always, even though this is nylon, I'm always paranoid that it might unravel. So I do not clip them or clip the zipper tape with scissors. It means though that when we are sewing this, we're going to have to check because it's easier to get like a crinkle there when we are sewing. If you do decide to clip your zipper tape around the edge, I would afterwards go over it with like a lighter to try to reseal it, or some fray check, just so it doesn't come unraveled. Okay, we're going to clip around the other side. And so when I actually sew this, so we're going to base stitch this on in a moment, I use a stiletto and I really just try to take my time around these corners, because you can get it so it doesn't crinkle on you, but you just have to be really paying attention and be mindful of your zipper foot and how it is pushing it along. All right, and so now that I have it all clipped on one side, again, it's the teeth, your zipper tape teeth should be facing down. On the right side of your exterior should be facing up. And so I'm going to take it to the machine and baste along the edge. Okay, so I have just basted this on. So it is holding our zipper tape in place to the exterior. So now I'm going to turn it around because we are going to repeat on the other side. To me, this looks like a giant like shark teeth. Have you ever seen like the fossils, you know? So you want to make sure that this is not twisted. If it does end up twisted, you can always like remove the zipper pull on the end. But it's just easier to not have to do that. So again, I am lining the zipper tape up, teeth side down to the exterior of my bag with the pattern facing right side up. And so I'm going to clip the rest off screen since it's the same process. But once you baste it on, you should have your two exteriors across from each other with your teeth basted on, or your tape basted on, zipper teeth down, and your pulls hanging off to the side like this. All right, so I have just basted on the other side of the zipper. So you can see this is what it's going to look like. And this is why it was so important to stitch here, because I pulled off my pull so many times when I didn't. So we are going to set this to the side because we are going to work on our little, in the exterior, these little things that are going to hold the sides. So when our pouch opens all the way, it doesn't like flop open and all your stuff fall out. So we are going to fold them right sides together and clip. And we are going to take it to the machine and we are going to stitch at the given seam allowance along the top and the bottom of all 4 of these pieces. So I like to clip them all at once. You'll see like sew all the top, turn them around, sew all the bottom. Okay, so we have just sewed the tops and bottoms of all our sides. So now I'm just going to take my scissors and cut at an angle. I'm not cutting into my stitch line, but just a little diagonal. It's going to help us turn these better, because after we trim it, we're going to turn all of these right side out. And I just use like a chopstick from takeout to help poke into the corners and really make sure that they are all the way poked out. You can use anything as long as it's not pointy and it's gonna bust through your fabric. So you're gonna turn all 4 right sides out, And then you're going to take it to the machine and top stitch around all 3 sides. And then I also do baste along this opening here. So basically top stitching around all 4 sides of every single one of these pieces.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have just top stitched all the way around our side panels. So now we need to baste them on to the edges. So if we're going to look at each side individually, and they're connected. So I'm looking at the top one first, and there's a measurement given in the pattern. So you are going to align that raw edge with the edge of the zipper tape. Measure up the distance given in the pattern, and then clip it to the side, and then we're going to baste it in place. So you want the longer side on the top, the shorter side on the bottom. I have already clipped one over here at the correct space, so you can see it blends in because I'm using the exterior. So again, it's just clipped in place. We're going to baste them, and you're going to do that for each side of your exteriors. Okay, so we have just basted on our side panels to each side. So now we are going to add our lining. So we are going to take one side of our lining and we are going to place it right side facing down. So our right side of our exterior and lining are facing each other. We're lining up those center marks that we've already marked and clipping in place. And now we're going to take it to the machine and sew around at the given seam allowance. I am switching to a zipper foot, and this is where I really want to be careful because I'm not snipping my zipper around the corner, because I found that if it was going to crinkle, it was going to do that during this step. So as I am going around, I'm going to be very mindful of that. Also, where these side panels are here, it gets a little thick. So you might need like a humper jumper or just kind of help your machine go over that if you are sewing on a domestic. So again, our linings and our exterior are right sides together, with the zipper tape and the side panels sandwiched between. And I'm just taking extra time going around where that zipper is and really kind of trying to press it down flat. And I'm going to use my stiletto, especially on that part, to help get around that corner. And you could clip both sides at once. We're repeating the same step for both sides, but I found it easier to do it one at a time. So now I'm going to take it to the machine and sew all the way around using a zipper foot at the given seam allowance. I have just stitched on my lining onto one side. So now we're going to repeat the same exact process for the other, matching up the centers, right sides together, zipper tape and side panels sandwiched between. But I'm going to do this part off camera because it's the same exact step. Okay, so we have just sewed on our lining on both sides. So now we need to turn them right side out to top stitch. And again, I prefer to do this one side at a time. This is the large size, so it turns pretty easy. And I tug on these side straps to make sure I'm getting them all the way out. I'm pulling on my zipper tape, not enough to like rip it out the seam, but enough to make sure that they are straight. If you are using like a cotton woven or a material canvas that you can iron and press, I would highly recommend that. It will help it sit nice and crisp. And this is where you want to check your corners, because if you did get any creases, now is the time to fix them. You could flip this right side out or wrong side out, flip it back, and pick it out and adjust. But I don't see any creases around the corners. I'm very happy with it. So what I'm going to do is file this out and take it to the machine and top stitch. You want to top stitch with the flaps. This side is still, I'm going to put that so it hangs down out of our way. The flaps you want out. You don't want to accidentally top stitch them while they're in. Then it will be folded funny. So you want them facing out like wings. And I have also found as I'm going around that if I put my zipper so it's kind of like turned up, that it helps top stitch. And the other thing, where our side panels are, it can be a little thick there. So just take your time, especially if you're using foam and you're going to top stitch all the way around from the left hand side around the zipper, stopping here at the right. And you're going to repeat this for both sides. Okay, so we have just top stitched around the zipper on that first side. This is what it looks like from the lining side. Again, my flaps are out. You don't want to get them tucked inside. And so I'm really happy with it. There's not any crinkles. Everything caught perfectly. So we are going to repeat that same step for this side here. I'm going to try it right sides out and top stitch, but I'm going to do that off camera since I already showed you the first side and it's exactly the same. Okay, so we have just top stitched both sides, but in order to complete the bag, we need to turn it right sides out again. I mean, wrong sides out, right sides facing in. What you want to make sure is that your zippers are not twisted. So see how mine are twisted? I need to make sure that I am Alright, so you can tell they're not twisted because they are straight right here. So now we are going to start sealing up our bag. So I'm going to flip it over so I have the exterior. And we are going to put only the exterior sides. So my lining is still down. Here's my exterior. We are going to clip them right sides together. If you have your centers marked, you could line them up from the centers. I just line up all the way across. And my SF101 from moving it so much, it kind of popped off a little bit. So I am making sure that I am clipping it in the seams. Because we are going to take this to the machine and we are going to sew all the way across at the given seam allowance. But while I'm there, we are going to do the same thing to the lining. However, we need to leave a turning hole. And I found it easier to leave a large turning hole. Because this is going to be, we're doing box corners. So when we close our lining, we want to make sure that we have sewn in enough. So I'm leaving about, it's about 6 inches of space that I'm going to leave in the turning. So I'm going to bring this to the machine, do 2 things. I'm going to stitch across the lining at the given seam allowance, leaving my turning hole. And I'm going to stitch all the way across on my exterior at the given seam allowance. Our exterior right sides together and our lining, leaving this turning hole in the center. So I can stick my hand through here. Now we need to sew up the sides and the box corners. This will leave us with no raw edges, but it's also the most difficult part of the bag. And this is why I'm showing it on the large. The large is the easiest size in my opinion. The small is the hardest. I'm going to link a video below to my friend Beth from Sew Country. She has a tutorial that shows how you can close up these corners from the interior and bind them, which is an easier method. But I like that the binding doesn't show, so I'm going to show you the original way written in the pattern. So first thing we need to try to do is zip up our zipper pulls inside. And it's a little bit tricky because our bag is going, our sides are going two different ways. So you might have to like pull from a few different directions. You can stick your hand inside the lining, like I'm sticking up through the lining to help me. And if you're using a dangly pull, it makes it even a little bit harder. So I'm just pulling as far as I can inside, and see, it makes it very tight here where we have to sew. So I might have to adjust this a little bit more, but what I'm going to do now is, you can see my exterior's on the top, my lining's at the bottom. I'm going to put my pointer fingers in that 90-degree corner right here, and I am going to pull them apart. And I'm centering my zipper teeth with the seam the best that I can. And one thing that we really need to pay attention is every time I do this, I tend to not catch right here. So you want to make sure that this is as zipped up as you can go, and you are lining up the teeth with the seam, but all your edges are together. And I find it easiest to clip this first. And I'm just checking because my interfacing is a little bit longer than my exterior. So I want to make sure that I'm catching my exterior fabric. And we're going to clip the lining to this as well. I just find it so much easier to do one side at a time. And like I said, this is the hands down the most difficult part of the bag. But there is another easier method, the binding method, if this is too difficult. So now that I have that side clipped, I'm going to turn my bag over, and I'm going to repeat the same thing for my lining side. And while I'm here, I try to always push my pull in as far as possible. We're going to repeat the same thing, pulling on those 90-degree corners and aligning our seam with the back of the zipper tape. And I try to line up both the front and the back at the same time. So what I'm doing is kind of pinching these together. And if you can't get it lined up to the teeth so perfectly, I wouldn't stress it. I care more about if I end up closing it like I should, so we don't have any raw edges. Okay, so now it's kind of like a boxed corner, and I'm going to take this to the machine, and I'm going to sew across, straight across, at the given seam allowance, and I'm going to backstitch a few times across the teeth just to make it a little bit more secure, so if it gets pulled on. And we want to make sure that we're trying to catch all the layers as we go across. Okay, so I have just sewn across here at the given seam allowance, and I have the remaining zipper, but before I trim or do anything, I want to check to make sure that I have caught all my 4 layers. Like I said, it's most difficult for me to catch near the zipper. So how we can check that is our lining, we left a big enough opening that we can kind of just turn it right sides out. Okay, and you'll see right here where I did not catch it. There's a little, like the edge here is not far enough down. So that's okay. I can correct this now. So what I'm going to do, part of the problem is my zipper pull is too close. So if you have a zipper foot, that can also help getting it closer. I am going to try to zip that up a little bit more. I am going to push this back out, and I am just going to come again and sew another line of stitching just a little bit deeper across the zipper teeth here to try to catch where I missed. Okay, so I didn't do a time lapse, but you can see that I changed out to a zipper foot, and I was able to get a deeper line of stitching, a deeper seam allowance. So again, I am going to flip this out just to double check, because right now, for me, it's so much better to double check right now than wait and realize, oh no, I have to redo it all over. And you can see that with that deeper seam allowance, I caught that edge here. So now this side is okay. And I can work on this side. So again, I am trying to zip this in as far as possible. To me, that's like the hardest part. Like, if you can get your zipper pull further in, it makes this part easiest, and then the odds of you not catching that are less. But I find it so hard to pull up. Okay, so then I'm going to repeat the same exact process, pulling out the lining, pulling out the exterior, lining them up, and stitching across. And I'm going to do that part off camera since I already showed you on the first side. Okay, so I have just finished stitching the second side. So now I'm going to trim down my zipper tape. And if you're using a nylon zipper, you can singe the edge just so it doesn't fray. And I leave a little bit past the seam allowance. I don't cut it all the way down. Even though I singed it, I still get worried, like, if it frays. So in the seam allowance, it should be fine. I have a fan on, so it wants to keep blowing out the lighter. All right. So now we are going to turn our bag right sides facing out. Everything is going to be closed up. And again, if you have trouble doing it this way, please check out Beth's video. She will show you how you can bind it on the inside. And we left a large turning hole, so it shouldn't be too bad. And I'm just turning gently. I don't want to, like, bust my seams in the lining or anything. If you are using a really stiff material, you could use like a hair dryer, especially if you're using like a vinyl or even the waterproof canvas. It will help become more malleable. And now I'm taking my time and just really poking out all the edges. You can see I have my hand inside of the opening in the lining, because once we seal that up, we won't be able to poke out the corners as easy. All right. So again, double check that your zippers on the bottoms, that everything is taut, because we are going to do the final steps to close it up. So we are going to put it exterior right sides together facing in, so our lining is on the outside. We're going to do this for two reasons. First, we need to close up our lining. So we have our turning hole. I find it easiest just to stick my pointer fingers in, kind of pull gently. It evens up across, and then I clip it. And you could like hand sew this together if you want for a really hidden seam. This is going to be at the bottom of the lining. So to me, you're not going to see it. I just always do it on my machine. So if you were binding the sides, you would be doing that step now, and you would be like seeing like a piece of binding here. Because we did it the original way, it's fully enclosed. So we're going to take this to the machine and top stitch across to seal it. But while I'm there, I'm going to do the last step at the same time. So I'm going to fold both sides together and match up my side panels. So it looks like wings. And we have already top stitched all the way around. But we're just going to run another line of top stitching along just the outer edge, not along the top or the bottom, just the outer edge, making sure you back stitch in the beginning and the end to secure it, because this is what's going to keep our pouch from flopping all the way open and all your stuff falling out. Okay, so I'm going to sew all three things, both of the side panels, and close up the lining in the bottom. Okay, I have top stitched both sides of the side panels, and I have closed up my lining in the bottom. So now we can just turn it back, exterior right sides out. And I'm just poking out the corners really well in the lining. I mean, in the exterior. Same thing for this side. All right, perfect. So this is the large size. You can see it opens up super wide. We have these nice little side panels to keep it from completely opening and dropping all your stuff. This is what it looks like from the sides. And we have the nice double zipper. So we can zip that up. And it sits nicely with that boxed bottom. All right, so we have just completed our Mirum pouch. All right, so we have just finished up our large size of the Mirum Cosmetic pouch. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It turned out so cute. I love the double zipper. I love how the bottom is boxed and it stands upright on its own. The inside is fantastic. I think it's a great size for toiletries, for traveling. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Please let me know in the comments if you make one. And again, if you enjoyed it, please like or subscribe. It helps my channel grow and I appreciate it so much. And thank you so much to Sylvie from Lacus Designs for allowing me to film this tutorial. And I will have all the links in the description to how you can purchase this pattern, her Facebook group, as well as her Instagram. So see you next time. Bye.